I'm not wish list, but that was not bad.
That was not bad.
That was actually pretty good, especially since I'm a little under the weather. I've had a little bit of a sore throat, and
it probably wasn't
practicing
smart
that. What?
It probably wasn't smart to do that then.
No, but it was fun.
You got better hang time than I thought you would on it.
Yeah, same. I'm a little out of breath though. Woo!
Just waiting for the high note.
Yeah.
That wasn't bad either.
Yeah, I tell you. So, joined tonight by Fantasy Football Cockpit. What's up, James? How's it going?
Going good, guys. How's it going with you?
Good.
Very, very good. I'm getting excited about this draft. We're just over a week away.
Just a little week away.
The captain is joining us from Canada. Where are you at in Canada? Where's abouts?
Just outside of Toronto right now. So I'm back where I was born and raised. So I've been all over the country the last few years. But for the most part, I'm here when I'm not working and flying around the rest of the place.
Nice.
It's been hard to keep track of where you're at.
Yeah. My wife says the same thing.
I finally nailed down. Okay, use Eastern time. He's there.
Yeah.
I don't know where, but he's there. So
yeah, for the most part now I am. So
that's awesome. Well, cool. Thanks for coming on tonight. So we got Albert over here in the chat already. Man, loyal, love it. Appreciate you, Albert, as always. So tonight we're going to be covering those 2023 rookies. So we brought on James because El Capitan there has been studying these rookies, watching some film, and writing down all kinds of good stuff on a trusty old notepad I think I saw the other day. And there it is. Oh, did you see the amount of notes? Look at that. Geez.
Pages and pages and pages.
Oh, and I'm still not done.
God, that's crazy. You'd think you would do better in dynasty leagues. Anyways, so
he just won ours. What are you talking about?
I know.
5 first-round picks, takes the ship, 3 more this year.
That's nuts. Yeah. So this
how
guy
did you get all of those picks and have all of those picks and still win? I don't understand.
Rookies got hot at the end of the year. Like Christian Watson helped get me into playoffs, got me through a couple rounds, and then my starters just took it the rest of the way. Dumb luck. Like I told you earlier, my 110 was supposed to be a top 4 pick, and I turned it into the last pick, so I kind of botched my own plan.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah,
but it worked out.
Worked out your way pretty well. So, anyways, we brought on our rookie expert here with the captain. So let's go ahead and get into it real quick because I think we've probably got a lot to cover tonight. James, who's first on your list?
First on my list, there's 2 obvious guys that are the best at each position. I won't talk too long about them, but one being Bijan Robinson, the obvious 101 in this draft. There shouldn't be anyone else. Everyone's talking about him with how big a difference it is between him and every other player in this draft. And there's good reason for it, but it was really hard to watch him this year. I probably watched each of his games 3 times, and I did that with a lot of these guys. Reason being, the 2023 class was supposed to be pretty fantastic. Everyone was hyped about it last year. People were selling the farm for picks this year. And I think maybe outside of Bijan, people are going to be pretty disappointed with what they thought this draft was going to be. But Bijan's the real deal. Like, you are paying up for him like you would someone like Najee, like you would someone maybe Jonathan Taylor at the first year he was drafted. Like, this guy's supposed to be fantastic. And even watching his film, there's a few weird things he does. Fantastic player, amazing yards after the catch, had over 100 broken tackles that PFF gave him credit for. To be nitpicky with him, he dances a bit behind the line sometimes, but I think that's because he knows how good he is. And he was shredding the SEC this year. And so I think rather than be decisive and get a few yards, I think he's always at the college level when he was looking to make the big play, which is good in college, so long as he plays it smart at the next level. And I think the few little things he has will get coached out of him. He's going to be a fantastic player. Just little things to clean up, but he's the obvious 101. The other guy,
while we're on Bijan though, we kind of talked last week. clear probably number one pick in
Mhm.
dynasty drafts coming up. But what if he gets drafted to the wrong team? What if he gets drafted to
I
a
don't think
team
it matters.
that
He
you know,
is
number
similar
one?
to what like a few years ago looking at Najee and Javonte Williams. Guys, I actually had Javonte maybe slightly higher. I just liked watching him so much more. But Najee was safe. And so I know in a few leagues I took Najee there. But to me, those two guys, they're landing spot proof. Bijan's the same way. He's a 3-down player. He can block well. He can catch well. And he's a big guy, 5'11", 215. He's young. He's only 21. He's going to carry a load. He can be an all-down back for someone. Even if they don't use him that way right away, he can be that. So I think he's pretty landing spot proof, and he's going to help whatever team he's on or supplant whoever's there.
Yeah, and even if that first year, it's not the ideal situation, that second year, but I think we all had that issue with Breece Hall last year, right? He got drafted to the Jets, and everyone's like, ugh, they've already got running back, and so everyone's like, well, what a waste. And then a couple games in, he was just the man until he got hurt.
Now, what if the Jets draft Bijan?
Oh, that would be devastating, but at the same time, him and Breece Hall would just shred.
That would be insane.
They wouldn't.
I feel like they would alternate though. Like you wouldn't. They'd alternate. You wouldn't even know which one to play every week or which one to draft.
They just take turns running for 5 yards, 6 yards a carry, and just shred offenses. They don't even need Aaron Rodgers. They can just keep Zach, whoever he is, there and be happy. So
just run a no huddle. Those defensive linemen won't be able to walk after
the
first.
They could go run some old school Miami Wildcat offense.
Yeah,
exactly. Where do you think a potential landing spot for him is realistically? Do you know?
I've heard a few people actually say maybe something like Philadelphia. Philadelphia is an interesting one because I know everyone's like, oh, they just got Rashad Penny. I found out today from a Eagles fan that they're paying Penny pennies. Like they could cut him tomorrow and only lose $500,000. Like they owe nothing. But I actually went through that. I was trying to think of teams that really could use a running back, and there aren't many. I guess like top ones I was saying were Chiefs, Bears, and Rams maybe were the ones that I think really don't have a super strong number one, or that have used committees in the past and maybe are lacking. And then I put stars beside the Giants, the Browns, and the Titans, because they're all ones where even the Vikings have said they might cut Dalvin Cook. So maybe the Vikings get someone like Bijan, which could go really well. The Giants, Barkley doesn't want to sign his tag. Draft Bijan and ship Barkley out for a package. Same with the Browns. Nick Chubb's the only one there now. Jeremy Ford, not so bad. I liked him a bit as a prospect last year, but he's not, I don't think, a 3-down guy for them. So if Chubb's going to run out of gas later, or just they want something different, you could go there. Same with Henry. There's rumors Henry's getting shopped, so the Titans may want another young guy. I think
I've heard the Cowboys might be looking into him too. Kyle, you said that the other night,
and
right?
The Cowboys.
I think that could go well.
I've heard some rumors about the Cowboys, but I was just sitting here looking at the draft order thinking, like, Eckler asked for a trade. What if they draft him at the Chargers? Or
like there's a lot of teams that have had number ones for so long.
If the Bengals let Mixon go walk, like maybe they trade up and grab him or something. So
there's a lot of teams that have had like what we've seen as number one guys for the past like half a decade or longer. Then they're just looking for new pieces again. So I'd be curious to see, but I kind of don't want to see him in an Eagles uniform, but it could be an interesting one. But even the Rams, he could add a lot for them too.
He already plays for
really
Texas.
Have anyone there.
He already played for Texas, so that makes me hate him. If he goes to the Eagles, he is absolutely dead to me.
100%.
What a piece of shit. Right. You can't play for the two worst teams. And
he'd be the exact opposite of CeeDee Lamb to me. Like you got a Sooner playing for the Cowboys, and then you got a Longhorn playing for the Eagles. Like mortal enemies.
Hold on as I praise my CeeDee Lamb jersey.
Yeah.
Anyhow. All All right.
Yeah, so he's the one and obvious choice for the draft as well as running backs. Then wide receiver, really quick. It's Jackson Smith and Jigba. Like he is the number one receiver, and again, it's not close.
Yeah.
But at the same time, he's also not in this draft the same way in the past years that we've drafted Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb, Jamar Chase, those guys, because he's not a prototypical like X receiver per se, but he's really smart, and I think in the right system, he could be one of the best number twos in the game for a few years, and then kind of do something like what Cooper Kupp did, where he can be dominant. Because a big thing of Jackson Smith and Jigba's game is he's really smart and he reads coverages well, and I think he really knows where to put himself and the defender. Because, like, yeah, he can make some flashy catches, but he's not going to do it the same way Chase and Jefferson can. But at the same time, Kupp doesn't always do that either. He's somewhere he sits down in zone somewhere and then scampers for yards after the catch, and then Jigba can do just that. So he could go a lot of ways, but I think he's really, really good. Like, he runs just like Garrett Wilson did last year, like super smooth, he looks so good to watch him run. Just really, really natural. So to me, he's at the Garrett Wilson level for sure. I think he's pretty landing spot proof that way. I think he should excel in an offense, but I think to at least get up to speed in the NFL, I don't think it'll take him long, but I think he'll be a stellar, could be the best number two in the league.
I think that mental aspect is something that's really undervalued, overlooked. Like you mentioned Cooper Kupp. I mean, white boy ain't the most athletic on the field, but he's doing something right. He's playing smart. And so I think that smarts goes a long way, but with him, he's also got that athleticism. So yeah, good prospect there. What are some teams? I honestly, just looking at the list of the first round draft order here, there's a lot of teams that can use a wide receiver.
Oh yeah. And even like my Texans, they pick at 2 and they pick at 12. And there's quite a few mocks that if CJ Stroud falls to them at 2, maybe they go with him and they stack him with his guy Jackson Smith at number 12.
I've seen that.
I just don't know if he'll get to 12.
And he may not. And it kind of depends. A lot of people are also saying too, the Titans could be an interesting fit for him, to line him off of someone like Treylon Burks, like two very different styles. Like Burks more of that X receiver, and Jigba's a really smart. He could still lead that team in receiving, opposite of Treylon Burks. But it's like who are they going to respect, right? I think that could be a pretty scary duo if they went that way. But also there's rumors the Titans might be going after a quarterback too. So who knows? AFC South's looking to reload.
I've seen that. It's looking more and more likely that that's the route they'll go. And at 11, there's going to be options there, but it'd be also easy to move up from 11 too. So I could see that happening. Do you think he makes it past the Texans at 12?
If he does, it's not far. I think he should go in the top 15, I would imagine.
Like if he does, he probably wouldn't make it past what the Patriots at 14 or Packers at 15, probably at the latest.
No, when the Packers are at 15, there's a chance it goes to 16. Although it would be really hilarious that they take
the Commanders
first round wide receiver after they would never get Rodgers a receiver, and then they finally use a first round pick on one. That would be
really funny.
But no, he's honestly there's a huge gap between him and every other receiver in this class. And part of it is because I think a lot are a similar body style to him. Where is it here? How big is he? I don't think he's very big. I think he's
not a big guy. There's not a lot of big guys, I don't think.
I have him here. One sec. There he is. He's okay. So he's 6 foot 196. So he's actually one of the bigger guys in this class, which is wild to think about. It's 6 foot, just shy of 200 pounds.
I was gonna say because I think Addison and Johnston and Zay, I think they're all fairly small guys, right?
Johnston, I think, is 6'2", but he's a weird one. But it's Addison is somewhat small, Flowers is small, Downs is small, Hyde is small.
Mims is not big.
No, like there's a lot of like what I guess in the past we call slot guys.
Yeah.
And so actually, you know what? I'll use this opportunity to go into Zay Flowers.
Yeah.
Because Zay Flowers is a guy that is kind of small.
He's been gaining
5'9".
he's been gaining a lot of steam in fantasy circles lately. I've
And
noticed.
I think it's somewhat valid. I'm having a hard time grading my wide receivers because there's a lot of them. I just don't think it's a good wide receiver class, if I'm being completely honest. It's a lot of these guys scare me. A lot of them, it's like even someone like Quentin Johnson, I'm not sold on. Even if he's easily in my top 5, but I mean, in this year, it's not saying a whole lot. But Zay Flowers is scary. This dude is fast and he accelerates well. He's bursty. Like the dude can be running, like he ran a 4.42 40. He can be doing that forward and just stop and start doing that sideways and then forward on you again. Like he's so scary after the catch. He runs so well. He tracks the ball well. And for a guy who's 5'9", 182, he played almost 70% of his snaps out wide just to show people he can, which was really, really cool. And that's all he did. Like a lot of people thought he'd get used like someone like Kadarius Toney, like be someone that, yeah, he's doing all vertical stuff, or he's doing a lot of like reverses and maybe like short slants, screens, things like that. And he got those, but this was a guy that was really able to play out wide, and he's so fast and so shifty. The DBs couldn't really bully him off his routes because he was so nimble. He just run around them, and he has such good hands. He just did everything well and really strong at the point of the catch too. He had a decent contested catch rate as well. So Zay Flowers, for me, I'm hoping to have my final rankings before the draft, but I think he's a guy that's in my top 5 wide receivers for this class. But I think, and he's someone I think can find a spot on an NFL roster. I think smaller guys, and he's probably less gadgety than other guys we've seen in the past. But yeah, even I was watching Steve Smith senior talk about him today and how he really likes Zay Flowers, saying how he's happy. He didn't get many middle kind of range routes from Boston College because then he'd just be labeled as a slot receiver. He was happy to see him play out wide and just embarrass guys all season long, which was cool. But 4-year player to Boston College, he's 23. So I don't know. A lot of people have opinions about guys that spend 4 years in college, but we'll see. There's enough upside there. I like him.
Sometimes guys just want to graduate, you know?
Yeah.
Well, sometimes guys are late bloomers. You know, sometimes, I mean, you don't find it until your last 2 years, maybe. Then it's just like, it just clicks, or you get the right situation. You get your opportunity. Sometimes you don't even get an opportunity until you're a junior to even play. So,
well, and for him too, like he did produce as a sophomore at Boston College, like pulling up his stats. He had 55 catches for 892 yards, 9 touchdowns as a true sophomore at Boston College. Followed it up next year with a few less catches, 44 for 750 yards, 5 touchdowns. And his last year, 78,077, 12 touchdowns. So his 4th year definitely didn't do him harm, but he was a guy that's been producing since he was a sophomore. Yes, at Boston College against whatever teams, but you got to do that. And the fact he was doing it as a sophomore is important.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. My number 2 wide receiver, I think, for this class, which for me kind of feels obvious, is Jordan Addison.
Yeah.
And he's a guy that was actually playing with Pickett in Pitt last year. Pickett. And he was really good with him last year.
Off too.
Yeah. And he was great last year. 2 years ago when he was with Pickett, because I think he had something like 1,700 yards or something ridiculous. And he did, and the cool thing when he transferred to USC, so when he was at Pitt, he played like 65% of his snaps from the slot. And it was a complete reversal at USC. And I think he was a very different USC receiver than what we know. We're used to seeing big guys like you think Drake London's and Pittman, things like that. But Addison, I think, still succeeded for what he was doing there. Again, he's small, 5'11", 173. So he's a bit Devontae Smith-esque, but not nearly as fast. He still fast, ran a 4.49 really good hands, really bursty, really good after the catch. And similar to what I was saying about Jackson Smith and Jigba, I think he reads defenses really well and coverages really well. So despite maybe being small and can get bullied off routes, he knows where to sit down. And he just finds ways to lose defenders. He's just all the time. He's just wide open somewhere sitting in a zone. And it's just crazy to watch his film and see where he loses the defender and just no one else picks him up. And he's so fast and he just, absolutely embarrasses guys. I think he struggles with tight catches when there's a lot of guys, jump balls, contested catches. And he is small, so he may not be the strongest at the point of catch, but he does enough. I think he'll definitely find a role.
Yeah, I think he has the advantage of being able to create that separation, run good routes, create that separation. Then the contested balls, there's just not as many of them. And so, yeah.
Yeah. Continue with some wide receivers. I guess I'll talk about Quentin Johnson because he probably is right around. He's either my third or my fourth wide receiver. And you know what he does? He's a guy that could surprise me. And I hope that he needs a lot of coaching, I think, at the next level. He's decently fast, a 4.49 40, 6'2", 208. So prototypical size. And he's fast. The problem I had with him is he's a body catcher. And yeah.
Yikes.
And a lot of his plays he was almost more like a vertical threat. Like he ran a lot of routes, but he really only made an impact on some of those deeper, more vertical routes where he could lose a receiver, a defender. But the problem I had was he had a lot of drops. He was horrible at contested catch. He had 35% contested catch rate, 8 for 23. And a big part of it is because he's a body catcher. He just won't put his hands out to grab the ball. No matter how much I watch this kid, he didn't want to moss people. And I didn't understand it. I don't know if it's a confidence thing. It's not like TCU was a bad team. Like they were doing pretty well, I thought, this year. He definitely was their better receiver. Maybe not the best quarterback play at times, but even still, like he would body catch everything. Anything he had to reach out for, box a defender out for, he wouldn't get. And it was really hard. It was really hard to watch. And to the point where, and I couldn't tell if it's like, man, was I just overhyped on this class? Like I have to stop watching, come back. And yeah, it was frustrating. Everything about him is screaming a bust to me. He's going to be a guy that has the size, has the speed, has the production, that he should get decent draft capital. But like, I just don't know if he's going to be anything because you can't be a body catcher in the NFL. Guys can be on you. You need to get your hands out. You need to be trying to moss guys, and he should do that. Like he's talented. It's just, I don't know. He just doesn't want to be. It's
so
weird.
Pretty much anybody that drafts him next week is going to draft him knowing that he is a athletic guy, but definitely a project at receiver.
Well, I can tell you that these flaws are known because the NFL didn't invite him to the draft to be live.
Well, there you
they
go.
only invited 3 wide receivers. He was not one of them because they were afraid of an awkward moment.
Geno Smith
TV
situation.
all these Lamar Jackson, these guys that they're sitting there in the green room and everyone's like, when are they getting drafted? When are they getting drafted? And they just
who are the other 2 other than Jackson Smith?
Probably Addison and Flowers.
Addison and I believe it was Zay Flowers.
Cool. Okay.
Zay Flowers.
It's
moving up draft boards, so that wouldn't surprise me.
I think. But
there's a lot of guys in this class that are anywhere between 5'7", 5'9", and right around 180 pounds on average, which is not a bad thing, but that's the way this class is. Kind of the opposite of what it was a few years ago when, I don't know. We just had some bigger guys, more X receivers. Next year, I think, is going to be a really big wide receiver class. Just from the tape I've been seeing, I'm like, oh, like who's his teammate making all these catches, and they're eligible for next year's class.
What's
Same with the
funny
tight end
is
class. I think there's going to be
what's funny
one.
is, and you mentioned it earlier, over the last year there was so much hype around this class.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody was trying to get picks all year
Mhm.
long, and now that it's here, you're right. Like I feel like everybody's more in now. The tight end class is deep. The QBs are
Yes.
deeper than they've been in a couple years too. But like running back, receiver, running back's deeper than receiver, but still not as deep as everybody thought it was going to be.
Yeah, and I definitely think I'll get to the running backs here after just maybe two more wide receivers I like. But the running backs, there's a lot of them.
Oh, sorry. Derberry says those players that had to wait on draft have not turned out too bad, including Rodgers as well, Ella. Yeah, no doubt. Like, it's not those players end up doing bad. They apparently they're just they have a hard time with those awkward TV moments of people sitting in the room there.
When you're the only guy in the green room at like the end of Friday night, like
because they're projecting him to go, maybe even the early 20s, early to mid 20s in the picks. But they're like, it's also possible he doesn't get drafted until the very beginning of draft night 2. So they're like, there's kind of this, and they just wanted to kind of, apparently the producers just thought that was too difficult to deal with.
Well, and position players are tough because even a few years ago, CeeDee Lamb wasn't there. CeeDee Lamb was at home with his family where he had to hide his phone from his girlfriend. Whether he was invited or not, I don't know. But
he was so hot.
He was my favorite receiver in that class. He was really someone I liked a lot. So I thought it was pretty funny when that happened. But no, the running back class, I think it was with the hype that was last year. I can understand watching tape from 2 years ago why everyone thought this class was going to be stacked. And I think just part of it was some guys just didn't take the step everyone thought they would. So instead of having a whole lot of first round picks, you have Brian Robinson, Jahmyr Gibbs, Zach Charbonnet, and then a bunch of early second round running back talent that is going to be landing spot dependent.
Yeah.
And there's quite a few. There is quite a few. Like there's at least 10 guys here that could be fantasy relevant, and half of them could go in almost any order. It's really going to depend on where they land. Yeah.
There's going to be one of those 5th round picks that's just going to be a stud. He's just going to come out of nowhere and be the stud.
You're going to see a Pacheco or an Algier somewhere in this class.
It's going to be Eric Gray. Eric Gray is this one's.
Yeah, Eric Gray. Boomer Sooner.
But yeah, and so I haven't done. Now there is 2 guys for wide receivers I haven't got to yet. I haven't gotten to Josh Downs yet. Haven't got to Kayshon Boutte yet. But Cedric Tillman is what I think he's the better Tennessee wide receiver. There's Jalen Hyatt, and then there's Cedric Tillman. Cedric Tillman is 6'3", 213. Prototypical size. He was hurt this past year, which is kind of why Hyatt kind of came out of nowhere, and he really did come out of nowhere because he didn't do much his first 2 years. But the best thing that I liked about Tillman was he had really big games versus big teams, like against Bama, against Georgia. Teams of that caliber, he was the guy. He was getting lots of catches, putting up big yards, really good hands. He separates well. Doesn't really do too much after the catch, but he's 6'3", 213, so that's not maybe not his game. Like he's 6'3", he can only move so well, right? You'd think, but he runs a 4.5, which is pretty good. He's a physical guy. He's really physical at the point of catch, which bodes well for his size. So he definitely plays big, and he played in a tough SEC with Tennessee. And so I feel like he's just a slower, less athletic version of Mike Evans or like a Michael Pittman type, where he'll give you flashy plays. He's kind of more of a possession receiver. And one thing I do really like about him as well, for the same reason I loved Pickens last year, he has his moments where he likes to bully the DBs, and I love that. Like he's a guy that's if there's a run play coming his way, this dude's more excited than he is if he's catching the ball. And I like that a lot. Guy he's a competitor, and I love that. Like I think someone in the comment there said with Hyatt, it's all go routes, and that's really his thing. Like I saw him like, holy crap, this guy went for 200 yards against Alabama. I think 150 of that came on 2 catches. And he had 3 other catches in the game, and it was basically a non-factor. And yes, he did it against Bama, but I'm like, it was just so like, it was so unimpressive. I just couldn't do it. His tape was kind of hard to watch for.
It's like,
but
it's
he
against
produced.
Bama, but it was really 2 plays.
Mhm.
Like Bama let 2 plays by, like.
Yeah. But I mean,
well, Bama's
for a long
defense was down
time
this year too. So
yeah, but maybe Hyatt finds a role kind of like what Will Fuller was in Houston, where he's just a vertical threat, opening up the field for everyone else. And the second you don't respect him, he's taking a big one to the house, and that's a flex player in deep 12-team leagues. That may be a guy in the right situation you take flyers on. But Tillman for me is the one I'd rather have. Mm-hmm.
Those guys make me nervous. Those kind of players do, because there will be games where they don't get that opportunity, and there'll be games where they get 3 of those in the same game. They're getting 3 60-yard, 70-yard touchdowns. And then the next game they'll get 1 catch, and it just be like, ugh,
4 yards or something.
Yeah, something silly.
Yeah. And then I guess like one other guy, there's 2 guys I like. Xavier Hutchinson and Parker Washington are interesting. Parker Washington's particularly interesting because this dude's built like a running back. He is 5'9", 204. So like he is thick. He's a thick boy. He was hurt for the combine in his pro day, so we didn't get to really see much for him, but he does play decently fast. But he's built like a running back, and he runs like a running back. Like with the ball in his hands, he's a pretty scary dude. Like he's nimble. He changes directions well. He can make guys miss. The problem with him, also because he's 5'9", for a thick guy, I thought he'd be better at blocking because low center of gravity and stuff. Like Kyron Williams, tiny guy for Notre Dame. Great, really good pass blocker, though, I thought, especially for his size. This guy just doesn't have it. He's a running back playing wide receiver. So I really don't know what that'll mean. Team might even move him to running back if they want. Throw him in on plays, which I think we've seen that before, haven't we? With a few guys.
Gadgety.
So we can see what happens. But Xavier Hutchinson's a cool one.
Antonio Gibson was a wide receiver turn.
I think so.
Back, right?
Yeah.
Well, Gibson, yeah.
But that hasn't turned out great so far. But
you'd think,
I think
right?
it'll show up this year. They finally yeeted McKissick off into free agency. We might finally get to see what he can do as a receiver this year.
Yeah, we'll see who they draft.
I'm curious.
But Xavier Hutchinson's the last one I'll talk about. Decently fast, 4.53. He's 6'2", 203, so good size. He did run the 3-cone in sub-7, so that's good to see because his routes are pretty good. He changes direction well, really strong hands, tracks the ball well, and he just moves well as a runner. For a guy that's 6'2", he's really agile and really can make guys miss and has really strong hands. So Xavier Hutchinson's a guy that I'm probably looking to take. Depending how the draft falls, he could go late first, and I'd be fine with it, or early to mid second in rookie drafts. Non-super flex, obviously, because then he falls further back. I definitely think this is a better draft for super flex guys. The first round's pretty full for that, but he's one of those guys. Xavier Hutchinson's a guy that he could be my 5th wide receiver. He could be my 10th wide receiver. That's just how much of a mixed bag and unknown this wide receiver class is until we get landing spots, which is kind of weird for me. Usually I have an idea of who I like. Like Pickens, unfortunately, was a guy I really liked last year in a stacked wide receiver class. And then when he went to a crowded room with the Steelers, and then guys like Sky Moore and Christian Watson got pretty opportune landing spots, I moved them above Pickens. And I hated myself for it. Absolutely hated myself for it because he became everything I wanted him to be in the Steelers. Then Claypool was gone, but now Allen Robinson is there, so I don't know what's happening. But that's as much as I'll say right now about the wide receivers, unless there's any particular guys you guys are curious about.
No, not in particular. I think we talked about the ones I was super curious about. And
there's a few others that are interesting, but I'll make up some rookie profiles for them and probably talk. We can
talk about those. If you're going to be on with me next week for the draft, maybe we can talk about some of those guys between actual draft picks or something.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yep.
So just to let people know, I will be live at the draft next week, and Kyle and I think El Capitan here will be on here.
I think
just
Tony's
for the
going to
first
join
night
us.
draft.
I think Tony's going to join us too. So I think it'll
Okay.
be me.
Yeah,
James,
Professor
and
will
Tony.
hop on here too. So that'll be fun, and I'll try to join in for a minute or two and give you all a live shot of the draft. Hopefully, the reception is better this year. Last year in Vegas, that didn't work out so well. I think there were too many people, and just it wasn't a good setup. So hopefully this year they have that figured out and have good cell service for people. So we shall see, but we'll have live coverage that night. And I'll try to get you some cool shots from the actual draft. So, all right, back to you, James.
Yeah,
I waited
so
until you
some
had
running
food in your
backs.
mouth to shoot it back to you.
Jelly beans, finish off the Easter candy. Jahmyr Gibbs, I won't say much about him too. Really exciting player. Gonna find a role. Some people have been calling him like another Alvin Kamara, which could happen. He's 5'9", 200 pounds. I really like him. Really fast, wiggle, agile, great after the catch. But he's not a big bruising back, so he's capable of running up the middle, which I like. I basically think he's a far superior version of James Cook. Everything people loved James Cook for last year, this guy can do it. I didn't like James Cook last year because I thought he was just a pass catcher who bounces outside every single time, unable to run up the middle. But no, Jahmyr Gibbs is the second best running back in this class. There's Bijan, a big gap, Gibbs, a big gap. And then we're getting down to guys like Zach Charbonnet. And so he's a guy that stuck around for 4 years at UCLA. I don't think it did bad for him because he actually caught a fair few passes this year, which definitely I think may have helped his draft stocks. I think he probably could have declared last year and I think been probably the fourth best running back in that class too, behind Walker and Spiller. So I don't really think he hurt his stock by staying a fourth year. He definitely saw some different looks, catching a lot more, but he's just a really safe guy as far as definitely a first round pick. I definitely could see him going as high as 3 if people maybe aren't wide receiver needy and want to be silly and pass on Jackson Smith and Jigba. But if he's there at 4, that's likely the pick. He's been moving back and forth for me with other guys I get really excited about because he's just so safe. Like big guy, 6 foot, 214, really good contact balance. He's strong, decent enough speed. He ran a 4.53 with a 1.54 10-yard split. So he accelerates well. Really good hands. He's patient, has good vision. He can break quite a lot of tackles. He wiggles well through tight spots to the line, especially for a big guy. And he just gets vertical. Like he finds a hole and he's not dancing too much. He's decisive. He just goes. Granted, UCLA had a really good offensive line, so that helped with that. But at the same time, he wasn't getting cute. He's like, he trusted his line. He saw a hole and he hit it hard, which I loved. He's a guy that can push the pile. He's got some weight behind him. A little thing he does that I like better than most other guys, he makes really smart little crack blocks. So if he's flaring out wide, he's a guy that's, if there's a linebacker coming in, he's giving him a shot and bouncing off, just disrupting him a little bit. There's other guys here that I like that don't do that. Even that's one of the things I want Bijan to do more because I know he'll do it sometimes and other times he just kind of throws an arm out there and it doesn't really impede him at all. If anything, it impedes himself. Whereas Charbonnet, he's a thick boy. He puts himself into you and bounces off to the point where he's not disrupting his own route, but he's making it harder for the defender coming in, which I really, really like. And he's really good at looking for blocks for others. If there's a broken up play, QB's scrambling, he's hustling to make a block somewhere, which I love. This guy's giving it all every play. He's a really good run blocker. Had a few drops, but I think that's partially QB play as well. But yeah, I just think he's a super safe running back. He's going to find a role. He catches well. He's big. He's good at the goal line. Like, to me, I think a fair comp is something like James Conner is probably his floor. But yeah, I'd say pretty similar to Monty. I forget how big Montgomery is, but I want to say he's probably a similar size. But yeah, Charbonnet, he just does everything really well. Nothing excellent, nothing poor, just really well, safe. Yeah, I think
Montgomery right now is 5'10", 222.
Okay, so he's a little bit short, a little bit there, but yeah, but Charbonnet looks good.
So my question with him though is with Charbonnet, that is you said 4 years, and then he's kind of he's a little bit thicker, probably taking a little bit more contact than some of these smaller, more shiftier guys. Do you think that that's a bad thing? Because running backs, 4 years on a running back and 4 years on a wide receiver are way different. Wide receivers have longer careers, less wear and tear, whereas a running back breaks down way quicker. Do you think that hurts him? If you're drafting for your dynasty, are you going to have him for less time than some of these other running backs because maybe he does take more of a chance of getting injured or wearing out?
Yes and no. I'm just looking at his usage at UCLA. So even year one as a freshman, he had 150 carries for 725 yards. He definitely, so I wonder if he was hurt in his second year because he only had 19 attempts for 125, but year two, 204, 1200 thereabouts, and just shy of 200 for 13. So it's not crazy usage, especially for college. And he was behind a good O-line. So I don't think he was seeing a lot of awkward tackles behind the line that we usually see. But at the same time, we've seen guys, maybe you have him for a few less years, but I think he's a good enough talent. I think he's going to be worthy of something for at least 3-4 years. And then kind of like what we saw Zeke for years, not saying he's Zeke, obviously, but Zeke for 3 years was dominant right away. Yeah. And then just slowly declined.
Yep.
And maybe he does that, but at the same time, I think that baseline, he's going to be great. I think he'll easily be an RB2 on a team. And in the right team, he could really excel and break into a top 10, but it depends on where he lands.
Yeah. And I disagree on Zeke. I think he was really dominant for 3 years and then hit a fucking concrete wall. I think he just...
he was dominant for 3 years, and then he had a couple years in there where he was still kind of sneaky good, but he wasn't dominant. Mm-hmm. And then last year he got to the edge and just said, "Oh well, fuck it," and jumped off. And that was it. Man, that was rough. That was it for Zeke. Yeah.
But
now he's sitting over there with his agent going, I think I narrowed my choices down to these 3 awesome teams, and they're all just like, no, you didn't.
Yeah, those other teams are like, what are you talking about? Oh, Kyle, I just realized we were wearing the same shirt.
Yeah.
Hey, look at that.
I realized that earlier, too.
I didn't realize that.
How did we accidentally wear the same shirt again?
What does yours say, James? Great day for
hay. But it was not a great day for hay. It was snowing here, which was nuts.
Oh my gosh, it was like 75 degrees.
Like flurry snows, so not like sticking to the ground. It's all melted already, but it was flurrying
still, Canada's weird.
Oh yeah, it's third winter.
It's a whole different world up there, man. It's really snowing in America's attic.
Yeah.
So Charbonnet is bouncing around my 3-4 for running backs. The one guy that I keep switching him with is Devin A-Chain. And A-Chain, he excites me so much. I love watching him play. He's so good. To me, again, he's small. He's 5'8", 190, but he's so fast. He ran a 4.32. He's got a 1.51 10-yard split. He's so elusive. He looks so good catching passes. He doesn't play small. Oh, no Corey. Oh, he didn't like my A-Chain talk, probably.
His internet probably cut out.
Yeah, Texas A&M running back, I guess. Getting that a lot. But
that means we'll get cut off here in a second. When he jumps back on, it'll reload. Yeah.
But the cool thing with Devin A-Chain that I heard some pretty cool stats on. So as an average, when this 5'8", 188, when he runs between the tackles, he averages 4.5 yards per carry, which is crazy. Which is crazy. Yeah, this was the other guy at Texas A&M last year with Isaiah Spiller. Like, I thought Isaiah Spiller was a very complete running back, and he didn't get many opportunities in LA this year because Eckler was awesome again. I haven't written Spiller off. I'm probably going to try and steal him away for guys. Oh, we're here again.
There's that reload I told you was coming. Oh, now I can't see Corey now.
Yeah, can y'all hear me though at least?
I can hear you. I can't see you.
Cool.
Just one big green screen. I don't know where I left off, but running between the tackles for A-Chain, 4.5 yards a carry, which is nuts for a smaller guy, which is really good for most running backs. And I'll have to fact check this one, but I'm pretty confident that they said when he was hit behind the line, he was still averaging over 3.5 yards per carry when initial contact was made behind the line, which is insane to me, especially for a small guy, 5'8", 190 pounds. He's either getting by guys, dragging guys, breaking tackles. He's doing it, but he's a good pass blocker. And he changes direction so well. Like, you think of guys like last year, Baylor's whole team that got drafted for whatever reason, like Tyquan Thornton, all these track kids that played football. Yeah. If they're like dragsters, this kid's an F1 car. This dude just takes off. He's shifty as hell. You're not able to track him. He's just awesome. He just doesn't bounce it wide all the time. Like, he's small enough. He's smart. He's able to duck tacklers. He wiggles really, really well. Just embarrasses guys. Like, I think because he's small, he has the ability to run full speed, plant his foot, and just go the other way because the inertia is so low. Like, he can just do it. He's so dangerous. My only issue with him being that small is he going to be another Kenneth Gainwell? Because I really liked Kenneth Gainwell. And then he kind of just got buried in Philly. Last year, he gets flashes of brilliance, but I think a team just needs to trust him, and hopefully they see him for the player he is, because he's so good. He is so good. To me, he's probably the third most exciting running back in this class. Like, very exciting player. If he gets in the right spot, he's really going to help a team. But that's the fear. He goes to a bad team where he can get buried. It'd be so sad. I just want him to succeed so bad. Like, every year I love a player. He's it. Like, he excites me. I love watching his tape. I had the easiest time watching his tape. Here it is here. When hit at or behind the line, he averaged 4.5 yards after contact.
Jesus.
Yeah, I did have it written down. And he's a smart player. So, if we're talking about any player in this draft that's 5'8", feet tall, wide receivers, running backs, this is my favorite guy. And I will plant my flag with him. I love this kid.
Is that a Canadian flag?
Whatever flag. I'll take the nearest flag close by.
Canadian flag, white flag, it's all the same.
Yeah, flag first, ask questions later, kind of a thing. But to me, those are the four most exciting guys to me. They are guys that, A-Chain was probably the guy in that 107 I traded away to Kyle. I was probably going to reach for him at 7 just because can never have enough running backs, and I like him enough. So it almost feels like a homer pick just because I like him. I like him so much.
What's funny is I've done minimal research on rookies. I'm going to be honest. Mm-hmm. I have an idea, but I know just from what I've seen, he's a guy that I was kind of eyeballing around there too. Mm-hmm. I was I'd like to get him, maybe hoping Charbonnet falls a little bit, but those are kind of some of the guys.
And I've even thought about it now that I don't have it and I have the 4. Do I just reach for A-Chain at 4 if he gets a good landing spot? But I'll have to wait and see.
Depends on what happens ahead of you.
Yeah. But no, I really, really like him.
The problem is I think all of the guys that pick ahead of me also need running back in our draft.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I'm sitting there at 7. I don't need Smith and Jigma. My receivers are good, but I could end up with him just because of what everybody's wanting to draft this year. I'm just well.
Oh, I know. Well,
I'll just take him and I'll trade for a running back, I guess. I don't know, but
yeah. And that's the one thing I will say. I was thinking about this today before coming on here. I was saying for anyone, for whatever weird reason, if you don't believe in Bijan Robinson, don't be dumb and pass on him at 1. Trade down.
Trade
Down. And make sure you get lots for him. Like I said, like you want Najee, like when Najee was the guy, or Javonte, whatever you'd pay for Najee or Javonte right now, that's what you pay for this guy. That is what you pay for him. He's not a typical 101. This is a dynasty cornerstone in Bijan. Yeah. You pay for it.
Yep.
Yeah. That's all I'm going to say with that.
Derryberry says, what do you all think of Sean Tucker's bootleg pro day video and times?
So I heard about it. I didn't watch it, but I heard because I think his 40 time was like a 4.3 something. Which to me, he's not a slow guy, but I also don't know if he's a 4.3 guy. But like he missed the combine in pro day because he was hurt or something. He had like legitimate health issue or something from what I heard, because he was excused from the combine or something. Because I was looking into that. I'm like, yo, did this guy just like pass on the draft because everyone else was like, or the combine because everyone else was killing it? But no, he legitimately had a good excuse. But yeah, that video, he's in like a park or something doing stuff. It's, I don't know. That's, you ever seen the HBO show Ballers, where like the Rock gets some kid on a beach running a 40? Like, I don't know. It's but to me, it's whatever, because Sean Tucker was he's one of those guys that he's in that group where maybe he's a late first, but he's more likely a second round running back. He was one of the guys that was supposed to be sweet coming into this year at Syracuse. I'll talk about him here. So he's 5'9", 207. He's 21, turning 22 around September, October, I think. And he had good speed. Like, he does play pretty quick. I don't know if he's 4.3 fast, but like I'd say 4.4, 4.5 easily. Like, he's definitely not slow at like 4.6 or anything. His vision is just okay. He was really odd to look at because he runs really hard. He wiggles well between the tackles. He's got a good jump cut. The reason why I say his vision is okay is because I have a hard time knowing. He waits. I think he first a guy to Syracuse. I think he trusts his O-line too much, because there are times he just stands behind the O-line with the ball, and you're like, "What do you like? Go, go!"
Yeah, there's being patient and then being stupid, right?
Yeah, and it's so hard to know which is which. Where he's like, "There's no holes. What do I do? What do I do?" And then I don't know. And then he gets tackled behind the line or does something weird. He's got decent power to like drag a bit of guys. When the blocks do develop, it looks really good because he kind of sees like, oh, this is starting to open, and you see him like kind of just stutter, explode, and he's good. But he does like to bounce out a lot, which it's hard to know if that's a result of a poor O-line in Syracuse or if that's him just being indecisive about his vision in his holes. So he's a tough guy, and he's not, for his size, he's not overly physical. He's got good power, but he's not abusing guys like you'd want him to. He is only 5'9", but yeah, 207. I thought he'd like be more of a bowling ball and really try to push like through guys, really punish, but he just doesn't do that. So I worry what he'll be like at a goal line situation, because I didn't get to see too many goal line videos, I think, of him yet, but he's one I'm evaluating more because there was so much hype about him around him at the start of the season. Like last year, the few names I did hear about were like Deuce Vaughn, Tank Bigsby, Zach Evans, Kundry Miller, Zach Charbonnet, Bijan Robinson, and Sean Tucker was one in there as well. And so I think people wanted to take a bigger step and didn't. So for now, he's a second round pick for me, but his pro day videos, whatever, it's because it's bootleg. Obviously it's not nice, but when he had a medical issue, there's not much you can do. I'm just happy to see something because, even at a 10th to everything, if it's a 4.3, I'm seeing as a 4.45 or something.
Yeah.
He's out there like,
because even if it's an unofficial time,
quarter in the field.
yeah. So and it's quite funny. I even heard another guy talking about guys at pro days doing the vertical jump. It's like how they reach up. It's like, okay, like set it here. Yeah, that's my arm, and and they really get up there and extend for it when it's time to compete. But
Derryberry says we're crazy. Eric Gray is the 101. Boomer Sooner.
Yeah.
I agree.
Still haven't looked at him yet, so he's one of the few. There's only a few running backs I didn't really get to. He's one of them.
I know.
Evan Hull, Dwayne McBride, Deuce Vaughn, Mohamed Ibrahim. There's only a few guys left for running backs, but
seems like Zach Evans has been gaining some momentum in fantasy circles lately, up the draft boards.
Evans, yeah. Ole Miss running back. I think a big part of it too is his size, 6 foot, 215. That's a prototypical durable running back. He does have decent vision. He's a physical runner. He's definitely a one-cut guy. Again, hard to know if that's due to the O-line at Ole Miss. I didn't watch a lot of their games. I really just watched the few to watch him because he was good between the tackles, but like he really just doesn't juke or anything like that in the second level. He's get north. There's a hole, take my step, and I'm at speed running through the hole. And that's what he does. And that's totally fine. Like that is a role that teams like the Bills need. Like we don't need him to catch passes. We don't need him to get cute, chop off big runs. Just
here's the ball.
Yards
go.
We need you to, get the yards we need you to get. It's not, and that may be a thing where he may not be fantasy relevant. Like, do you remember a few years ago with the Texans when we had, who was it? No, was it Gore? No. Carlos Hyde. I think Carlos Hyde was there, and he rushed for like 1,000 yards. A guy that was not lighting up your fantasy teams, but was a guy that in real life was very useful, and that might be Zach Evans. Like he's a guy that's could give you like 1,100 yards on the ground, but depending on the team, may not get touchdowns. But he was decently physical, so I think he could get a nose for the end zone. He's a big guy to push the pile. He just doesn't juke. So I don't think he had too many big runs or is likely to get more at the NFL level, but he could surprise. He's a guy that's definitely landing zone dependent for me.
Yeah. And I know there's a bunch more running backs that we could talk about that I'm curious about too. We could talk about it next Thursday night. But we're getting close to the end here. I'm just curious, are there any specific, I think everybody kind of knows the QBs that are coming.
Yeah.
But are there any tight ends you want to mention just fantasy wise?
I spent a lot today actually looking at the tight ends. So the one name that's most known is Michael Mayer. I think a lot of people have him as the tight end 1, which is fine. To me, he's not a very exciting player at tight end. So don't go drafting him thinking he's going to be a Pitts. Don't go drafting him thinking he's going to be a Hawkinson. I definitely think if all turns out well for him, he could be something like what Freiermuth has been doing, where like I think Freiermuth had like 500 yards his first year and like 700 yards last year, like just slowly building kind of a good reputation with his quarterback. Like he's a good blocker, so he's going to see the field, which is nice. He's not just a pass catching guy. He's very reliable blocking. And it's obvious he was a basketball player because a lot of what he does for his catches, he's not quite quick enough to separate. Like he ran a 4.7, but he's 6'4", 250. So he's a big dude. But obviously maybe not big enough to play basketball. That's why he's playing football. But regardless, I think he needs a bit of volume to be relevant. I think it could be easy for him to kind of be what Cole Kmet's been for the past few years. Like he's out there to block a lot of the time, catch 2-3 passes a game for like a security blanket yards, almost like little 6-yard catches, 17 yards. So that could happen. But also he could be someone like what Tunyon was a few years ago for Rodgers, where he's gonna, if he gets volume with someone that really likes him because he's got good hands, he high points well. He's really good at positioning himself where he'll like box out, like he's like a basketball player. He'll go up and he basically like rebounds for the football. Like he's gonna block guys out with his body so he can make easy hand catches because he's got good hands. He's only 21. I really think he could be a security blanket that could be volume fed for somebody, but he's not going to be a Kittle type weapon. That's just not his game.
Yeah.
So I think a hope for him is to be like Freiermuth, I think. He's not my tight end 1, just from initial viewership, just if he gets in a good situation, he could be, but I just don't think he has enough to be super fantasy relevant. And we've seen that with mediocre tight ends on your bench. You can just plug and play guys that'll do as much as he will. In the first year, he's a guy, maybe you wait and see what happens. Like I would still draft him somewhere, maybe second round, because I do think he's going to see the field. Like he's talented enough, good hands, blocks well. He's going to get opportunities. The guy I do like the best.
Hey, James, real quick, I'm going to interrupt you really quick. We have a super chat in here I want to get to really quick from Sports PSP here. Thanks for the super chat, man. Who should the Commanders draft with the 16 pick?
Nobody we're talking about. Probably defense.
Yeah, I'm guessing they're probably going to go a corner or something, which is super disappointing. I know that we're all super excited to have Bieniemy over with the Commanders and see what's going to happen with that offense stuff, but they have a lot of their needs met on offense. I think we kind of alluded to earlier a pass catching running back with McKissick being shipped out of town. But honestly, I mean, I think that Gibson is capable. I don't know why they don't use him more, but whatever. So it's possible
they go quarterback now.
It's going to be Sam Howell, right?
What if?
Howell, and I think
what if Will Levis falls to 16?
Yeah.
If the Kentucky quarterback Will Levis falls, they should take him there.
Yep.
If he's there, they should take him. Because
the only other guy that has a chance to be there would be Hendon Hooker at quarterback, and I don't think they need him.
I've heard of him sneaking into the first round too, but I think Will Levis, if he's there,
I don't think he'll go there.
Maybe Smith and Jigba falls there. Maybe that's as far as he falls, because honestly, who's that other guy they drafted, the young kid they drafted last year? Wasn't he out of NC State or something?
Dotson?
Or University of NC?
Are you talking about Jahan Dotson?
Yeah,
they've
Dotson.
got McLaurin. They got McLaurin, Dotson, Curtis Samuel, and De'Ami Brown. I don't really think they need a receiver.
Yeah, I don't think
De'Ami Brown was the UNC guy I was thinking of from 2 years ago. I don't think he's anything special. To be honest, I didn't like Dotson. Him and David Bell, I just didn't like. I thought they were just volume-fed guys that really didn't have much talent. Got a lot there, but yeah, no, I didn't like them at all. So, but there's really no, I guess, bigger wide receivers that would need. Like, yeah, maybe if Will Levis falls there, maybe they take a tight end round 2. Maybe that could be interesting. So maybe they take a Kincaid or a Mare.
I'm looking. I pulled up CBS mock draft. I don't know that much about defensive rookies.
Yeah,
there's a lot of good corners.
This one has Deontay Banks, corner from Maryland, going to Washington at 16.
Mm-hmm.
That would be good.
I heard it was
after Julius Brents from K-State, Joey Porter from Penn State. Any of those three guys.
The one I'm looking at is Joey Porter, maybe.
Any of those 3 guys would be really good for them. It
sounds like they're looking at more defensive back than
I feel like there's a lot of good defensive guys in this draft.
They've got the offense to get it done. I think they got the offense to get it done. If it's not Howell,
they need a quarterback.
If Howell doesn't do what they're hoping he does, I think Jacoby Brissett could.
But they drafted him in like the 6th round. I don't think they're expecting much of him.
Or they trade for Trey Lance to go with the enemy there.
That'd be interesting.
That would be interesting. And as a Cowboys fan, I don't like the thought of that. But
the cool thing too with the Commanders, because they're under new ownership, right? So how much do they want to overhaul of that franchise?
Yeah.
If the owner's like, hey, this guy's a schmuck, get rid of him. I don't know how much pull the owner's going to have, right?
Exactly.
But Trey Jones got lots of pulls, so.
I mean, it's true. New ownership could come in and be like, draft a quarterback. Like maybe they trade up draft night. Who knows?
It could be really interesting.
Well, especially because he's a sports guy. Like he's the same guy that owns the 76ers or the Phillies.
He owns the 76ers and the Phillies. I think he owns 2 different sports teams.
Yeah, so like he's a sports guy. So I think that's interesting when you get new ownership where they kind of know sports.
Is he just buying Philly's opponent to sabotage him? Is that what's going on?
Maybe.
But he already owns teams in one trash town. He might as well own them in another trash town.
I had a few $1 billion laying around, so I bought a division rival so that they could drink.
Oh, I thought I hit mute. I'm so sorry. I did not mean to just blow my nose into
No,
the
you
microphone.
went full elephant right into the
Wow,
phone.
I am so sorry. I clicked it. It must not have just
The nasal
hit
trumpet.
register. Cool. So to get back over here,
Yeah,
we'll
Dalton
get back into the
Kincaid
tight
is
ends.
my favorite tight end.
Hold on, we got another one here from Sports PSP. Thanks again for the super chat here.
Ooh.
As far as tight ends, I love Washington from UGA, from
All right,
Georgia.
I'll talk about him next then. That's fine. So Georgia had two. I thought so. This guy's an animal. This guy is 6'7", 264. He's huge, absolutely huge, and he's 22. Or going to be at the start of the season. He's got 11-inch hands, so he's massive. This dude blocks amazingly. The cool thing is this guy at 6'7", ran a 4.64.
Jesus.
That's a big man.
Now I see why Sports PSP likes him.
Yeah. So he didn't have excellent numbers at Georgia. The reason is because of this Brock Bowser.
Yeah.
I think it's Bowser. That's a Georgia. Because that
Bowser,
kid's an animal. This guy, he's gonna declare next year, and he's gonna be a game-changing tight end, like Pitt's game-changing. Because this dude's already putting up like 800 yards a season.
Except maybe he'll
like a true freshman and a sophomore.
Maybe he'll land somewhere that'll throw in the ball though.
Yeah,
but Pitts.
Yeah. Darnell Washington, he's so big. He's such a good blocker. He's athletic. He's got really good hands. It's crazy. Like, he's only 22. I really think if he gets coached well, he could be a devastating player for a team because he's still so raw, but like the potential's there. Like, he'll go up for balls. He high points well. Like, he moves decently well for a guy that's 6'7". Like, you just can't guard that. Like, that's such a mismatch for anyone because most guys that big aren't running 4.6s. So even corners, as much as they're bigger in the NFL, like, how are you going to compensate for that vertical when you're running full speed? Like, that's tough. That's a hard mismatch. He's a guy, I think he's my third tight end. I think he's the guy where I've been moving him and Mayer around just because Mayer's so safe, but Washington is massive. Like, he's huge. He's absolutely huge. Like, I think guys have been comparing him to, I think Jelani Woods was pretty big.
Yeah,
right.
Jelani Woods is pretty good size too.
Yeah, I think people are saying it's something like that. And he flashed last year. So I think people are looking towards some of these, like, just, he's so big. He's so, like, to watch his tape was cool because I was watching the guy opposite to him just like catch every play. And I'm like waiting for his, because I think he only had like 500 yards, but he had so much promise. Like, the few plays he did get looked really good. And he's a 6'7" lineman that can move like nobody else, which is just absolutely gross. Oh, he did do the 20-yard shuttle. He had a 4.08 20-yard shuttle, which is better than a lot of receivers that did it in this class. There were some receivers that should not have done the 20-yard shuttle. Oh, here we go. Oh, no, that's hold on. Where is he here? I have
that
one.
That Bowers guy is going to be ridiculous, by the way.
Oh,
when he comes out.
He will be absolutely gross.
I think I watched one Georgia game where they threw him the ball. I think he had like 12 catches in a row, like just play after play, like 10 yards. Like, it was ridiculous.
Yeah.
Couldn't cover the guy.
So this guy did, all right, so where did I just lost him here. So what did I say? A 4.08?
Yeah.
4.08 20-yard shuttle. Jackson Smith and Jigba had a 3.93.
Oh, God.
That's crazy.
Like, I don't know if this guy has the reach to make up for time because he's 6'7", but like, that's insane.
That
for
is
a 20-yard shuttle to only be like less than 2/10 off is incredible. So like, he's very athletic, very strong. He's huge. Like, I think he's still raw. I think he could improve with the right coaching to be an absolutely devastating player.
That's crazy.
Well, I know if I'm taking it 7. No, I'm just kidding.
And honestly, in the right spot,
I love a good tight end.
Yeah, he could be really exciting. Just real quick. So like, so Washington's exciting. Guys, Sam Laporta, really exciting too. So he ran a 4.25 20-yard shuttle at 6'3", 245. He did run a sub 7.3 cone, which I thought was impressive. He ran a 4.59 40. And the cool thing with him is 50% of his yards came as yards after the catch. So
like
this
that.
guy, yeah, he was a former wide receiver at 6'3", 245. He's just a thick wide receiver. Like, he moves like one. He's an okay blocker. I think the reason why he was a wide receiver and is no longer one is because his hands are kind of meh. But he can. I think he's gonna be pretty close to a Komet kind of guy where he can explode for some games, give you like some 70, 80-yard games, but he could also just be a really big distraction because he's pretty quick. He moves well. He's hard to bring down. So like, I think he could get a chance on a team and do pretty well, but I don't know if he could be Pitts or Hawkinson level kind of production, but I mean, he's worth a flyer, and I'd be
He's
willing
got some
to
pan
take a flyer on.
hands.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
Njoku used to be pan hands too. He used to drop the ball all the time, and he's improved a lot. So, he may just take a little bit to develop, but
yeah. And part of it too, he's also in Iowa. So like, I doubt the quarterback play is stellar at Iowa. I can tell you who the quarterback is. I haven't watched it. So
yeah, I don't
they
even
produce
know.
tight ends though. Damn.
Apparently so. And so
that's where Fryer moved from. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
yep. Yeah. So like, and he looks good. Yeah. I'd say the best one though. So like, they're Mayer, Kincaid, Washington, Laporte are my top 4. No question.
Hit us with that Kincaid.
Yeah, we keep trying, right?
Oh,
right. So
I knew who I was thinking of. By the way, George Kittle also went to Iowa. Just throwing that out there. So
yeah,
that's tight end you up there. Iowa is.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny because Penn State's linebacker you, and then you got Iowa's tight end you. Ohio State's wide receiver and QB you, I guess.
We'll flop.
Same with Wisconsin. Wisconsin only makes running backs, I think.
Yeah.
JJ Watt. All right, yeah. Dalton Kincaid from Utah. So he is 24 by season start, 6'3", 246. Had a really good stat line last year. 70 catches, 890 yards, 8 TDs. So like 70 catches was huge. He was kind of the offense for Utah, really. He's like 70 catches. There's a lot of wide receivers I named on this list that don't have 70 catches. He lines up everywhere. Lines up absolutely everywhere. The dude is at wide. Sometimes he's the most outside receiver. He's inside. A lot of times he's the one in motion running through in front of the quarterback on plays. He runs really good routes, really good hands, really good contested catch. He's probably the closest thing to like a Kittle, Mark Andrews type where he moves really well. He's capable of producing well. He's a solid option and he blocks well enough to stay on the field. He's not the most, but that could be coached. Like he's decently quick. He's got big hands. So like, I think he just, with the right coaching, they'll teach him tricks to use his size to leverage a bit better, but he already does it kind of well. But I think he's the guy there. He's just looking to do a little bit, get out in space and make some catches because he was definitely doing that. Yeah. So like, I definitely think like he's the number 1. I know a lot of people have it kind of flip-flopped. I don't think he's the obvious one. He's my one for now before landing spots, but I definitely think the 4 of them between Laporta, Washington, Kincaid, and Mayer, they're moving a little bit. I definitely think Mayer and Kincaid are the 2 that are switching in the top 2. Washington, Laporta, 3-4. And so, yeah, there's a few more names on here too, like Luke Musgrove is an interesting one. Where's he from? He's the guy from Oregon State, but there's not a lot on him because he got COVID during the COVID year, and then he had a knee injury last year, so he only really played in 2 games. But he's 6'6", 253, runs a 4.6 40. Really good blocker. He's fast. He accelerates quick. I think he had a 1.54 10-yard split, so pretty similar to a lot of wide receivers, but he's doing it at 6'6", 253.
Yeah. Got some big tight ends this year, man.
There's a lot of big tight ends this year. That's the thing.
Fellas.
Like there's a couple of guys that are 6'3", but then there's a lot of dudes that are 6'6".
6'6",
and he runs really good routes for being 6'6". He tracks the ball really well. Like he looks like a wide receiver when he's looking over his shoulder for the ball. It looks pretty fantastic. There's just there's so little film on him. But like I think in 2 games last year, he had 11 catches for 170 yards and a touchdown. So like he was trending well in his first 2 games because regardless of who the competition is, as a tight end to do that in 2 games, it's you're being targeted reliably. He was at Oregon State, so that might have helped as well. But yeah, he's a guy that I think in the little bit of tape, he's exciting to watch, but there's just so little. It doesn't make him a very safe pick.
Yeah.
But he's definitely someone worth taking later in rookie drafts, maybe 3rd, 4th round, depending how many rounds you have. Yeah, just because I think there's a lot of dart throws in this draft, which is kind of really interesting. I think 2nd round picks hold more value than they did last year.
Yep.
Whereas later firsts maybe don't hold the value last year's did.
Yep.
And so I just think there's a lot. It's a big 2nd round this year is really how I'm seeing it. So 3rd rounds carry some value because you're getting better quality maybe in the 3rd round, a lot more dart throws. But that it also is going to thin out a little bit once we get landing spots. Yeah, no, there's a lot of guys here. Like even Brian Robinson really surprised me last year with where he was. I didn't think much of him. There's a lot of guys I think that are
once he got his shot.
And that's just it. Once he got his shot, right? And I think there's a lot of guys on this list that are better than Brian Robinson.
Yeah.
That I didn't even name yet. Like especially like Roshan Johnson, Bijan's backup. Last guy I'll talk about.
Go for it.
So the cool thing with Roshan, imagine having the best running back in the league. And the split between him and his backup is 75-25. Over the course of 10 plus games, who do you think is going to average more yards per carry and touchdowns based on their attempts if the splits are 25-75? You would assume the 75.
Yeah.
You would assume.
You would
because
think
they have more opportunities for big plays. They were darn near the same on an average basis.
Huh.
So like he was like Bijan literally had 3 times the stats nearly of all of Roshan's. And like Roshan is of similar size to Bijan, similar style, run behind the same offensive line. So it's like Bijan, I think, had like 17 touchdowns. He had 5. But like at 3 times less the carries, like everything was like cut in half. Like Bijan had like 1,500 yards. He had 500 yards. Bijan had 300 attempts. He had like 90 attempts. So like it was really impressive to see Roshan keep so much in the tank and produce similarly on an average to Bijan, which was cool to see. And he's a guy I think is a lot better than Brian Robinson. So I think, oh man, like
he's a guy I've been interested in when I was been looking around a little bit. And it's like, he's one of those guys, like if he lands in the right spot, he could be really, really good, but he could also still somehow like slide into that 2nd round of rookie drafts if,
and honestly, he'd be a steal in the 2nd round, similar to like last year, Rashad White went in 2nd round a lot, and he was one of the best producing running backs in the league last year. Just he was on a lesser team, maybe with lesser talent, with the best O-line in the country, but to be number 2 to Bijan and produce exactly the same as him, have really good hands. He's actually a little bit bigger than Bijan. I think I have him here at 6'2", 220. Whereas Bijan is 6 foot, like 215. So he's slightly bigger. But he does, and he gets used as a lead blocker for Bijan a lot. Oh, and was he good at it? Oh man, was he good. Like just bullying guys out of the way, making big holes. And I know there's a few coaches that still like fullbacks and stuff that could lean that way. So yeah, to use him in tandem with somebody could be dangerous because he'll probably go 3rd round. I think that's what he's worth. He's got a lot of rubber on the tires because he got to run behind Bijan. So,
or he got to run in front of Bijan.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of rubber on the tires.
Maybe him and Bijan will end up on the same pro team so that they can keep going.
That'd be dirty.
Oh man. Honestly, the only team that could use like 2 running backs maybe could be Kansas City, but Kansas City, I think, is actually a spot I wouldn't mind seeing Gibbs go to, just because he's a really good pass catcher. And like we've seen pass catchers succeed in Kansas City. And like Pacheco's fine. He's fine.
He's not a bell cow, though.
No, and I know we're getting away from bell cows, but even just as like a prospect last year, Pacheco was fine. Like there's better guys in this draft than that. I think they could supplant him and stuff. And yeah, like I don't know, like there's a good mix of guys. There's some good power backs in here. There's some good like first couple down runners, but then there's a few guys in this draft like Kendre Miller's a guy I don't know what he's going to do at the next level.
Yeah.
And it's weird to hate on both TCU players, I realized as I was doing that, but I don't know. His tape was weird. He runs really upright and like he really has no power and like he catches fine, doesn't really block well. So it's like I just don't know where he's going to fit. Like I don't see him. He's good for college and like a good prospect, but like as far as where he could be used on an NFL team, I don't know. Like to me, he's a Zach Moss.
Yeah.
Like
he would be a really good fit on a scout team.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, I know we need to wrap this thing soon, but just a couple of like really quick takes on some guys that have been kind of popular in fantasy circle videos and things are Tank Bigsby and Tajay Spears. Do you like them at all? Or?
Tajay Spears. Oh, I do. There are guys I didn't get to talk. Tajay Spears I like a lot. He's probably my running back 5. Really like Tajay Spears. And then, sorry, was Tank your next one?
Tank Bigsby, yeah.
Yeah, Tank Bigsby's in that group too with like Zach Evans, Israel Abanikanda. Fun to say that name. They're all there. Roshan Johnson. Like they're a good group of guys that maybe aren't complete players. But I think they do like there's teams that need like that forward bruising power. Like they're James Conner-esque. And they're guys that you just need to run the ball well and decisively and strongly up the middle for maybe other pass catchers and things like that to play well. And so they're the kind of guys I think they'll find spots and they'll play. They'll be great depth guys, great backups to have, like similar to what Pollard's been in Dallas for years. I know I've been a little down on Pollard compared to others, but I mean, to have that confident second is so huge for teams.
Yeah. Agreed.
But, yeah.
So
really
here's,
like
here's hoping. So here's hoping everybody falls into great fantasy football relevant spots during the draft next week. That won't happen. It never does.
No,
it never happens that way. We lost Corey again.
But, I mean,
I thought he got awfully quiet up there. He froze, and his internet's been giving him crap, which means he'll come back just in time for us to say goodbye. But
yeah, exactly. But there's enough running backs of equal talent. Someone's going to land in a good spot and move up this list. It is relatively
it is deep, but it's top heavy at the same time.
Yeah,
like,
but it's like shallowy. Yeah, there's some. There you go.
There was the glitch.
There we are. Yeah.
Sorry, guys.
Your internet's fucking up tonight, bro.
It's annoying. It's annoying.
Yeah. But on that comment, I don't know if top heavy is the right word. I think last year, like there was a top heavy wide receiver class because there was a lot of guys you can interchange and take out. But this year there's a few guys that are studs, and then there's a lot of like, I'd say valuable pieces. Maybe not like dynasty cornerstones, but like gonna be useful to fantasy players.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and I think we're seeing that depth develop. I know we've talked about it a lot of, these teams, they are going to split running backs. There's not many workhorses. So there's more opportunities for these guys, but they're not going to be your dominant fantasy players. But like Tony Pollard will probably never get a shot to be just the guy because they're going to get someone to split time with him, just like they are everywhere. I mean, it's just the current NFL, and there's so many more talented players too. But with that extended season and all the injuries and stuff, just taking some of the wear and tear off of these players. So it's there's a lot more opportunity for these players to be valuable. For sure.
And I think this year too, more than we have seen the last few years, where running backs tend to be luxury picks for teams during the draft. This year, I think you're going to see more actual running back needy teams stepping up and taking them a little bit earlier than usual because they're not out signing these free agents that want bukus of cash. like they have been in the past. Like they're letting like Kareem Hunt and guys like that just sit in free agency and like, what the hell, you know? And so I think you'll see maybe some running backs going a little earlier than they have in the past, but that's because they want to take advantage of these rookie contracts at running backs.
Well, and that's it. I think a lot of people want guys on rookie deals. They basically running backs are expendable. Like there's a ton of guys ready to fill that role with fresh legs. And
even wide receivers. I mean, these players are coming out of college just at a completely different level than they used to. I mean, look at how many rookie wide receivers and sophomore wide receivers, they're relevant. Like that didn't used to happen. They used to take them a little while to earn their place, and now they're relevant in year one. So
these teams are having to pay these quarterbacks and receivers so much money now, the elite ones. Well, every quarterback, the elite receive out the butt. So they're like, yeah, we can save money by drafting rookies at running back, and that's what they're doing.
Yep.
Instead of signing, I want $15 million a year off of free agency running backs.
Yep.
Well, I mean, and look at the Chiefs and Bills. They've had two dominant teams that have had somewhat weaker run games with committees. So it's obviously something that kind of works.
Yeah, where their best running backs are their quarterbacks.
Yeah.
I mean, Philadelphia was kind of the same way. I mean, Miles Sanders is
Philadelphia is the same way.
But these teams that are advancing, their running backs, their best running backs, their quarterback on most of them. So
Chicago, Baltimore, all of these guys.
Yeah, it's interesting.
And then wherever this next group of guys go, Stroud, Richardson,
that mobile quarterback is the way of the future. So
Trevor Lawrence holding it down for everyone else.
I tell you.
Lawrence and Burrow sitting in the pocket,
holding it down.
That's right. Baker Mayfield.
Yep.
Sorry, I had to throw him out there. All right, guys. That's going to do it for tonight. We've gone to the hour-and-a-half mark. It's been a lot of fun. James, thanks for coming on. We'll see you next week for the draft. We will not be streaming on Tuesday night. We'll be doing a Thursday night stream for the draft next week. James, if you can join us, we'll probably have the professor on here. Tony will be on there. So it'll be a lot of fun. And
9 days to the draft.
Oh, my gosh. I can't believe it's already time.
This is me.
One more week.
An old man.
That's crazy. Anyways. Reminds me of that The Office gif. Awesome, guys. Well, we'll see you guys next week, and thanks for joining us.